Well, hello and welcome again. I'm Dr. David Hargroder with the Mini-Gastric Bypass, and I'm waiting on Miss Carla to join me, and we'll be talking tonight a little bit more about some of the problems that people considering the Mini-Gastric Bypass face in terms of decision making before surgery and trying to decide, whether to proceed or not. So we will see what happens here. We'll wait for Carla and we'll get started with this topic. If anybody else wants to join in, all you got to do is click on the little join button, the icon, and ask to be part of the conversation, and we'll put you on. And let's see, here comes Carla.
Yeah.
All right. There
Hi. Hello
she
there.
is. How you doing? So we have a topic today. Dealing with the
It's one of my favorite.
naysayers, huh?
Yeah.
Family and friends and everybody else that says, oh, that's a bad idea. Why in the world are you taking the easy way out? Why in the world are you doing something so dangerous yeah, where do we start with this?
Yes. Well, why don't we start with why people say things like that?
Well, I think a lot of it is out of love and concern, of course. They're worried about their loved ones going into surgery. I think part of it is probably attitude still today. People that are struggling with their weight are looked at more with the attitude of a behavioral problem. You just need to learn some self-control. You just need to exercise a little more and eat less, and you'll be fine. Um, as though they haven't been doing that their entire life, trying to lose the weight.
Yes.
And part of it, I think, is a little bit of maybe not fully understanding the whole field and spectrum
Yes.
of bariatric surgery, that there's a dozen different procedures out there for them to select from, and each one has its good points and its bad points. And so sometimes one of the common things I hear from patients is, yeah, I've got a brother, I've got a friend that knows somebody that had this surgery, and in quotation marks, had this surgery,
Yes.
and they're sick all the time and they're having problems. When the reality is they didn't have the MGB, they had a different surgery. And
Yes.
as I said, each different surgery has different problems that go along with them, some more than others. And what we find is that the mini gastric bypass, is a little different than the rest of the procedures. Some would maybe even say a lot different in terms of the safety profile, the complication rates, the success rate, etc. So you can't lump all bariatric programs and procedures into one category. So I think
Yes.
that's kind of a basic summary of where a lot of the issues are.
So let's say you're at a family gathering and someone in your family says, oh, I knew so-and-so who had that surgery and gained all their weight back. What would you respond to them?
My first response would be, are you sure they had my surgery? Are you sure that they had the mini gastric bypass? Because that is a very, very rare occurrence for patients to regain a substantial amount of weight. I can't say that it never happens. I will say that it typically happens to people that don't follow our program, that come in, have the surgery. We prepare them. We spend weeks, sometimes even months, preparing people to have the surgery, educating them, making sure they understand what the expectations are for them after surgery, which aren't much. just stay in touch with
Yeah.
us and
Yes.
follow a few simple rules that we have. And if you do that, you're likely to have very good long-term results. But the people that come in, have the surgery, go home, make their 1 week follow-up visit, and then we never hear from them again, are typically the ones that we'll find gained an unacceptable amount of weight back. So my first response to that person, are you sure it was the surgery that I had? And
Well,
then
say no, no.
more than likely, their answer is going to be, well, I don't really know. I don't think so. I think they went to some other place to have
Yeah.
it.
What if they say, well, no, I think they had that major one?
Yeah. I try not to talk negatively about the other procedures as much as much as I can avoid that. I try to do that and simply point out that our surgery is different than the others. So when people say I had that major one, well, which major one? Because
Right.
they're all, quite honestly, even the MGB, are major surgeries, right? It's not like
Yes.
just taking a skin ditzel off where you go to the office and get a little numbing medicine. I mean, you're put under general anesthesia. You have a general surgical procedure performed upon you, and you spend the night in the hospital. So, in a sense, they're all major procedures. The confusion, I think, with the mini gastric bypass is in the name, and that's been one of the controversies with the surgery among the professional organizations. But the background there is the name mini gastric bypass was actually coined 25 plus years ago, 27 years ago, when most of the operations were being done open, and those that were being done laparoscopic were taking several hours and costing $50,000, and oftentimes a few days in the ICU, and drains and NG tubes, and a lot of return to the hospital early post-op days because of complications. And then Dr. Rutledge came up with this, operation that can be done in less than an hour with an overnight stay through 5 little tiny incisions. And so it was a minimally invasive operation compared to all of the other big operations being done out there. So that's kind of where that term mini came from. But it is mini in terms of, I think, a complication profile when you look at it compared to some of the many other operations that are out there.
Yes. Well, as most people know, my daughter was not one of my biggest fans in the beginning. And every time we went to visit her in San Diego, of course, I had to ask for a seatbelt extension on the airplane. So I'm already
Right.
embarrassed. And I always knew the last hour of our time together, she would say to me, if you would just eat right and put a headset on and run, you wouldn't have this problem. Not understanding what it's like to run when you weigh 320. I can't hardly go up the stairs and you want me to run. And so we would have this argument and we would leave each other angry at each other because of course she is a size 4. So that's, never understanding what it's like to be in my body. And I will never forget, even the morning before my surgery, she called and argued with me, trying to get me not to have it done. And I have to say, when you have failed and failed and failed at everything you have tried for 30 years, it's very hard to find that strength to fight the people who love you. But you have to find that courage.
Right.
And I'll never forget, after losing the 159 pounds, we had that welcome home party for Tony coming back from Iraq. And she was carrying a 20-pound bag of potatoes, complaining about how heavy they were. And I said to her, oh no, get 8 more of them, put them all over your body and put a headset on and run. And she looked at me and she knew exactly what I was referring to. And she says to me, Mom, I had no idea what that was truly like for you. And I will never forget, about 2 years later, sitting next to her when she's convincing her best friend of 20 years to have our surgery, who weighed 435 pounds, who did tremendously well and became a professional photographer for Dolly Parton, because she now had the confidence in herself to put herself out there in her field.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was one of the most crowning moments. So yes, it is. It's very hard to face those people, especially before you've had it.
Yeah.
After you've lost the 100 pounds, you can just go in and go, well, I think it's a great idea.
Right. And it's not just the family and the friends either. Sometimes it's the doctors.
Oh, we're talking
Right?
about my primary care?
Yeah.
Well, of course, my surgery will be 22 years ago next month. But of course, my primary care physician is 5'2" and weighs at least 100 pounds. Every visit, she would absolutely preach and preach and preach to me about my diet, my weight, my weight. And so when I went in and asked her to sign my support letter, she refused. And I said, but you're always complaining to me about my weight, but yet you won't help me. Oh, no, no, no. You just need to eat right and exercise. And I said, well, I'm going to give you, I gave her the handbook, and I left it with her. And then she agreed to sign the support letter. And now over the years, she'll send me people, or she'll ask me, will you talk to so-and-so? And I'm like, and every year at my physical, I always say to her, do you remember? She's like, yeah, I know.
Well, there are lots and lots of doctors like that out there, unfortunately, that still believe that, diet and exercise. And I'm not saying diet and exercise is not a good thing. Certainly everyone ought to diet and exercise. But the reality is, when you're 100 pounds overweight, it's just not a practical and realistic thing to do. And if you had 1,000 people that were overweight that were trying to lose their weight by diet and exercise, you might have a handful of them that actually succeed.
Sure.
But the other 990 of them are going to be right back where they were 6 months later. And, if they went on a special diet plan, a lot of people pay for these monthly programs that promise to help you lose weight. And so it's a matter of being, and you bring up a good point too, how much more confidence you have after the surgery than before. So it's kind of hard for me to instruct or advise the people before how to stand up to those naysayers personally, other than to say, maybe here's Dr. Hargroder's book, read it. Because we do cover everything in my book, which is called Obesity. It's not a character flaw. For anybody that is interested, you can get a copy for $2 or $3 on Amazon, I believe, electronic version. So really, it's just a matter of not being, I guess, the first bit of advice for the patient considering surgery who has a naysayer: don't take it personally that they're trying to talk you out of it. Don't get angry that they're trying to talk you out of it. Try to understand first, why are they raising that question? Because it may be it's out of love and concern, no doubt, but it also may be out of a little, I hate to use the word ignorance, but objectively, if you don't know anything about the subject that you're talking about, you know what I mean? It is ignorance that they would say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's the easy way out. Well, we've got, hundreds and thousands even of medical journal articles that demonstrate clearly that weight loss surgery is so superior to diet and exercise in achieving long-term significant weight loss that topic's not even really a debate anymore. It's just a matter of taking that step and reaching that point where you in your mind finally feel like, I've tried everything and I'm not getting any younger. It's only going to get harder as I get older, and just, making the decision that you have to make, despite the
Well,
naysayers.
and you're absolutely right, because we're all going to get to the point in life where you look back and you want, so you can say, instead of I wish I had, I'm glad I did.
Sure. That's one of the most common regrets that I get when people, when I ask the question, do you have any regrets about having the surgery? Typically the response is, yeah, regret is I didn't have it 10 years ago or 20 years ago,
Yes.
because they just missed out.
I have to tell you, I have worked with you now 19 years, and not one time has anyone said to me they were sorry they did this. All they say is just what you said. I wish I had done it sooner. It gives us our life back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what you're so grateful for.
And
So, yeah.
the other, on a positive note, one of the things I like about the naysayers is
Yes.
watching their conversion.
Yes. Yes.
Just like your daughter,
Yeah.
just like Gina. It's like they're naysayers until they see the success and how well you're doing. And especially the doctors that come around. I like the doctors that don't believe in weight loss surgery. And then they reluctantly send a few patients our way because the patients are educated enough to insist on it. And then they get a couple of patients and see how well they all do. And next thing you know, we're starting to get referrals from the doctors, just like your experience with your own personal doctor. So, yeah.
What is your advice for people who do go to their primary care who says no? What do you advise them to do?
There's a couple of things they could do. Again, get a copy of my book. You can call Sherry here at the office, and we can mail a copy of a hard copy book out to you. And just give that to the doctor. It's a real easy read, but it goes through a lot of those objections and concerns and explains some of the. It's a book written for lay people, but there's enough information in there that doctors will get something out of it to understand that this isn't just the easy way out or taking a shortcut. That the data is very clear that the surgical treatment for obesity and all the comorbidities that go along with it, high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol issues, etc., are all improved after weight loss surgery. So that would be step number one, is just get my book. Number two would be to, make sure you understand what is the objection exactly. I had one doctor that refused to send a patient to me because he had a friend that he went to medical school with that was doing the Roux-en-Y, in another state. But that's who he sent all of his patients to, and he wasn't willing to deviate from his thing. Well, if that's the case and they're absolutely unwilling to move, then you're left with no choice but to get another, to find another primary care doctor that is willing to support you in your decision.
Sure.
So I don't like to make that as a recommendation at all. I want people to stay with the doctor they've had for years. So maybe before it gets to that, even see if your doctor is open to having a conversation with me, and ask them, would they receive a phone call from me, or would they be willing to call me so that I can explain to them, the rationale for why we do what we do, and help the doctor to understand that it's not only a reasonable option, but a smart option for people that are body mass index over 35.
All I can say is I am so glad that I found the courage and the strength to make this decision, because I am forever grateful for you and the surgery. Thank you so much for giving me life back.
Well, you're quite welcome, and you have done so great over the last 20, how long has it been now?
22 years on January
years.
10th. I'll call you at 7:30 to remind you.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, is there anything else you can think of that we need to make sure and cover? I don't know if anyone in the audience has anything, if anybody wants to jump in and maybe share their own experience. Uh, we'll give that a second or two and see if anybody wants to respond. If not, I think we leave it at this. And I think, don't let the naysayers discourage you. That's the big thing.
Never.
Is, if this is something you want to do, it's going to change your life.
Mhm.
You just have to find the way to do it. If the naysayers want to jump on a phone call with me, I'm happy to talk to any family
Yes.
member or
Yes.
friend that has questions or concerns because they're worried about their loved one undergoing this procedure. I'm more than happy to have a video call with them so they can actually see me face to face and know that I'm a real person in a real practice. And
I remember.
we'll go from there.
Yes. And it is their life and their choice. And it's take control of that and enjoy building your life.
Absolutely.
So thank you. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to the audience. And
yes.
I guess we'll be back next Tuesday.
Yes. I'll be there.
6 o'clock Central Time. We'll see you then.
Wait, that'll be Christmas Eve.
Is that Christmas Eve?
That's Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, we probably won't do one then.
Christmas Eve party with family.
All right.
Who saw
now
me
what's the following Thursday? Is the following Thursday New Year's Eve?
I don't know. My calendar.
The following Tuesday.
My calendar only goes to. Let me see.
Yeah. Well, we do this on Tuesday.
That's New Year's Eve, so it'll be 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll pick it up again next year. All right.
Okay. See you everybody next year.
And Happy New Year. Take care.
Bye.